this lesson, we will learn how to add washes to a denim garment. We will be covering the following: overview of how washes are done in V-Stitcher, how we can obtain wash effects, applying pre-created washes, and the Genealogia dry finish library. You can download the BW file for this lesson from the download section. Washes in V-Stitcher are usually applied as artwork on the garments. There are a few ways we can add washes to a garment. Each method has its own advantages. As seen on this completed garment, we have multiple artworks stacked on top of one another. There are light wash effects and darker washes that we can add to achieve the different highs and lows of the washes. You can see in the 2D window all the bounding boxes of the different layers of washes added to the garment. Different parts of the garment will also have irregular wash effects, for example, the bodice or the waistband. Thus, these areas will also use a different artwork or artworks to create the effect. We can hide the internal lines in the 2D window to hide all the bounding boxes of the artworks. In the next few lessons, we will also learn how we can manage stacking multiple washes. These artworks are then customized within V-Stitcher as well as external photo editing software like Photoshop for more customized wash effects. We will discuss more about custom wash effects in the next course. So, how do we obtain a wash effect? Wash effects are usually created using raster-based software like Photoshop, Procreate, and more before they are added into V-Stitcher as artwork. We highly recommend having a Photoshop expert create these washes for your denim apparels. We can even build a preset library of common washes to share within the organization, or we can customize from existing washes by editing them externally. We will be covering custom wash creation in the next course. Since washes are added as artworks, some of these common file types we should save the wash as are PNG, AI, or PSD. This is because most washes come with transparency, so we will need to use a file type that supports that. When using a PS or AI file, these files will still be editable once we import them into V-Stitcher with the Edit Externally option. Using PS and AI files would also mean that we can add multiple layers of washes within the same file and adjust the layers within Photoshop. This is another method we can consider when working with denim washes. As for edge washes, these are assigned as seams or edge assignable trims. We mostly utilize grouped seams or use the built-in wash effect in V-Stitcher. We will cover more details on edge washes in a separate video. To add a wash effect, we will go to the Artwork section. Then click on the hamburger icon and select Add Artwork. Select the wash you want to add. We will use the Full Light Wash Front Leg White.png wash for the front leg. Once added, we can use the Assign tool to assign the wash to the front leg pattern. The wash looks very harsh for now, which is normal. Depending on the way the wash was created, the size and placement may vary. In this case, this was created for this very pattern piece. If we have scaled it down when creating the wash, we would want to scale it to match the bounding box size of this pattern, which you can find in the transformation section. In most cases, we will follow the height of the pattern. Since this artwork was created true to size, we do not have to resize it. To edit an artwork, we need to load the Material context view. We can select the artwork in the Material Resource tab, or right-click on the artwork and select Edit Artwork. When we add washes, this is what they would normally look like. Most of the time, we use white and shades of gray and black to create the wash effects, but we can also recolor them if needed in V-Stitcher or in Photoshop. They will also be transparent in the background. The first thing we should do after we have resized the artwork would be to adjust the material blending. Material blending mode determines how two layers of material are blended into one another. The available modes are normal. It will have no effect on the blending of the material unless a transparency of greater than 0 is set. Overlay replaces the medium gray parts of the lower material texture with the higher material texture. Therefore, unless the lower material texture is predominantly medium gray, the resulting material texture is typically a lighter shade. Lastly, multiply. This blends the materials together, resulting in a darker colored texture. For this example, we can change the wash effect to overlay. This lightens the part of the washes that were white. Notice how the wash blends with the texture of the fabric. This can be further enhanced by enabling Use Lower Layer Maps. You can see a subtle difference in the definition of the texture. Note that for the Use Lower Layer Map feature to work, we must have a normal map. We highly recommend using a normal map with a good resolution to get the best results. Next, we can adjust the transparency of the artwork to control the intensity of the wash effect. Pause the lesson to complete the previous steps. If we want a darker wash effect, we normally use a wash artwork that has darker shades like gray or black. We can add another wash for this example. We can use the Full Dark Wash Front PNG for this. Then we adjust the placement to sit above the light wash artwork. When adjusting the artwork, we can change the material blending to multiply. Now we can see on the garment the effect of the dark wash. To reduce the effect, we can adjust the transparency of the artwork. To increase the intensity of the dark wash, an option would be to adjust the diffuse color to be darker using the color picker. If we want to revert to the original color of the diffuse map, we can click on this reset button. Similarly, we can also adjust the color of the lighter wash. In some cases, we may want to create a wash that is slightly warmer, like a yellow-toned wash effect. For an artwork that is mostly white, changing the color of the diffuse to yellow will show minimal changes. This is due to the color blending mode. Let's discuss a bit more about the color blending mode. The color blending mode affects how the material is being recolored, and it will depend on the color of the original diffuse map of the material. When using the overlay color blending, changing the color of the diffuse will not change parts of the garment that is white. Parts of the diffuse map that are originally true gray will be changed to the exact color we picked out. Thus, this is the best option for a grayscale diffuse image. When using multiply color blending, this combines the colors of the diffuse map with the colors we selected. This is best used for white-colored materials. When using the recolor option, the software will change all the colors to the color we selected. Note that this may work better on plain colored materials. Back to the wash artwork. Since we are working with a mostly white artwork, we can use multiply as the color blending mode. We can adjust the color depending on what we want to achieve with the wash effect. Take a moment to assign the darker wash to the leg pattern and adjust the material blending and transparency to achieve the desired wash effect. As mentioned in the first part, we would normally use different wash artworks for different parts of the garment. Let's add more washes for the other parts of the garment, for example, the bodice and pocket patterns. We can add the generic white wash PNG and the pocket light wash PNG. We assign the pocket light wash to the wearer's left pocket. We need to resize it. Another method to resize the artwork is using the gizmo tool. We enable Snap to Point and drag the gizmo to the corner of the pattern. Then we can drag the corner of the gizmo until the artwork fits the pattern. Adjust the material blending and transparency. Next, we assign the generic white wash to the bodice pattern. This wash was not created specifically for this pattern, thus we can play around with the size and placement of the artwork to achieve the look we want. We adjust the material blending and transparency. We want to adjust the color to be warmer. Remember to change the color blending mode to multiply to see a change in the color in 3D. You can play around with the settings. In some cases, we may use the same wash on a different part of the garment. For instance, we can use the same generic white wash to the rest of the bodice patterns. Remember that we can clone materials and assign them. This way, we can adjust the size and color as required for each pattern. We can also continue to adjust the washes which we have applied to the other parts. For example, we can flip the artwork in the image editor. Pause the lesson here and finish assigning the washes to the bodice and pocket. We highly encourage you to play around with the settings available to get the desired wash effect. In the Library section of the Resources tabs, we have the Genealogia Dry Finish library. This library allows us to download and utilize these finish effects. However, do note that these are presets, so any custom wash effects must be created, added in separately, or edited from the existing washes available. Let's try to add a wash from this library. We download the Nanita Right Front Wash. Next, we assign the wash to the other side of the front leg. We can position it as needed. This includes rotating the wash or even scaling it to suit the pattern we are assigning it to. We then adjust the wash just as we did with the other washes, adjusting the material blending and transparency. Similarly, we can create our own library of preset materials like washes, seams, trims, and destruction effects for denim. We will discuss more about this in a separate lesson. Lastly, if we need to delete any of the washes, we select the wash in the 2D window and click Backspace or Delete on our keyboard. In this video, you've learned about adding washes to a denim garment. For more information, check out the Browseware Help Center.